This is the cutting edge on IRFM. They are with you next Wednesday. We're still into the Black History Month. And as I say, we celebrate Black History Month. The last man standing. We're going to be the last man standing, crying in the wilderness. Black History Month, very important. Very, very important. So here we are saying, so now. We want to yell up all the people them. We don't know if we do it. Yell up all the people them who come Sunday to the Peter Touch tribute. We want to yell up all the people them who journey from everywhere to come celebrate with the family and with IRFM. Peter Touch. We want to yell up all the sister them who sit down beside me all of the rain. And then they will be. We don't, hey, you know, say, me can't take when me give people my phone number and them don't call me the Rasta. No people me give me phone number, me don't get them call me that. I mean, why they call me late in the night, middle night. You understand? But I get to understand, say, this is now work here right now, don't hire for me, so I don't know where I go on. And I know, say, you have a brother named Urchin. Urchin supposed to call me. And I want to tell Urchin, say, Urchin, they are wait for my phone, but guess what? It's not me nor you, you know. It's Digicel. So blame it on Digicel why not never go on a while ago. But yes, whole heap of ones, thousands turn out, and we feel good. We feel good for no say we call the people them and them come. Why you call the people them who bring me stinking to them? We are tell you, man, trust me, stinking to a Deesbury, and if I have hand to take stinking to a Deesbury, it's sweet me, man. It's sweet me. So, me call for Deesbury and stinking to, and when we reach there, a pure Deesbury and stinking to come to me. That means, you know, it's the next year, me go call for $1 million, cause it look like the people them love Muta Baroka down that way. So, next year, me go call for $1 million and say me can get even 999 out tight. Why you look all the ones them, believe you me, it was a wonderful Sunday. Even though the rain come the still, but me I tell you man, it was wonderful man. Believe you me. You couldn't ask for nothing sweeter, man. You couldn't ask for nothing sweeter. If you ask for something sweeter, you're covetous. You understand? Black power is what it is all about, and you can see the power and the strength of IRFM without any whole heap of this and whole heap of that. Just the power of the airwaves and the sound. So we want to give thanks to Jai Morgan. Jai Morgan, you know, easy. Believe you me. The crew man, they can walk in a Rasta. Trust me, man. She can walk. Anyway, we want to heal up Cabo. Yes. We want to heal up all the ones them who drive that the big old truck there. Well, I know old truck still, but trust me, man. Yeah, it's sweet, me though. It's sweet. You know why it's sweet, me? It's sweet me because I get a call from tourist board today. It's sweet, me. Yes. We get a call from tourist board today. So, you know, the tourist board not really involved in them things there. But we not beg nobody nothing. We go to somebody and we ask for some assistance. If them not assist, just go move on. You understand? This is the cutting edge on IRFM. Tonight, we are carrying our university early to, you know. Yeah, we have lectures and lectures. This is Black History Month still, and from the month start, we not really play no in-depth Black History Month lecture. We give you snippets of different thinking and thoughts, but seriously analytic study. So we want to give you tonight John Henry Clark, and if time allow, we're going to give you Ray HAGINS. And John Henry Clark going to talk about Africa before slavery, which is where we always emphasize the history of Africa before the Europeans and the Arabs go there, because we must not forget, you know, the face of Egypt now is not the face of Egypt when it was 1,000, 2,000 years ago. The face of Egypt that we see now is when the Arabs invaded, because you have more Arabs living in Egypt than in Saudi Arabia. Yes, the population of Arabs in Egypt Egypt have the largest amount of Arabs living on earth. And there's an invasion. The invasion of the Arabs in Africa is longer than the slavery that Europeans hold Africans in. And we must also remember too that there's a group of Africans in North Africa who come from, where we could say Niger and Mali, the Tuareg people who come into Morocco. And when the Arabs infiltrate North Africa, especially in Morocco, they converted to Islam. These people was eventually called the Moors. And the Moors went into Europe, especially Spain, especially a place named Granada. And they ruled Granada for 700 years. These same black people. But we must not forget that these same Moors, because of their Islamic influence, helped to what we call mobilize indigenous Africa into slavery. Because you know, say, from a Muslim, you know, him see himself first as a Muslim and then an African after. Because we've been to Africa already where Africans in a Senegal change them name from African name to Muslim name, Arab name. And we can see that in America too. A whole heap of black Muslim, so-called, when them become black Muslim, them don't search for an African name as African name can be. Them go for an Arab name. You know, they want to be like Muhammad. You understand? So it's not like we don't understand the history. But we must understand that when religion come into the African mind, is a different person. And when we look at slavery on the west coast of Africa, we must realize a whole heap of that playing out of slavery. Part of the Islamic mind help to disintegrate the glory and the strength of Africa. That is why you see, if you know and understand that in the Coromantee, as in Akompong and in Moortown, as in the west, the east part of Jamaica, there's a lot of Arab language words. There's a lot of Arab words in the language of the Maroons. And one try to understand how is it that the Maroons have Arabic words mixed up in them indigenous words. This is all because of the invasion of Islam through the guise of black people. The invasion of Islam from North Africa into West Africa. And, you know, so when you become a Christian, when you become a Muslim, people who are not Muslims are called infidels. People who are not Christians are called pagans or heathens. And black people, and we see it still playing out itself, black people who call themselves Christians, see themselves first as Christians and African after. Not realizing that them can't change them religion and them can't change them race. It is really astounding to understand how is it that a man would prefer to call himself something that him become rather than something that him is. Prefer. He's an African first. Everything else come after. Whether through revelation, through inspiration, or just through stupidity. So the Islamic influence is also found in the Maroon language. And part of that, when you hear people talk about Africa and sell Africa, I ain't not seen say Africa and sell Africa. I seen say it's an Islamic mind that is putting Africa in a position to white people, these black people who call themselves Moors, who took upon themselves Islam, did not see the indigenous Africans as them brothers and sisters, but see them as infidels. Just like a Christian or a call you Eden or pagan. You have Rasta man who go around the place and say that to people too. If you're not Rasta, you're Eden and all them something, you follow Christian people. Madness. I follow Christian people, I call people Eden and you're pagan. And they don't even know where pagan come from. They don't know what Eden mean. But it's just regurgitating the craziness that has been placed in our minds subliminally and make us live in the illusion that we are aware of ourselves, when what self are we aware of is the self that was given to us by our colonial masters through the religion. Religion is the most destructive thing in a black people consciousness. Religion are the most destructive thing in a black people consciousness. And until we understand how destructive religion is, we will never be free. Never be free. Because it is the religion that has been perpetuated against black people. Even in Islam, it is the religion of Islam that caused black people to turn against black people in Africa. It is religion that helped black people to turn against black people in this part of the world. So we have to understand how religion and what religion play in our destruction. The destruction of black civilization was caused by the infiltration of Arabs through them Islamic religious persuasions into the minds of black, jet blue black people. When you go in Morocco, you see some people blue. Them call them the blue people. Them people that come from West Africa and find themselves in North Africa and get transformed. But right now, if you go to Niger, and if you go to we're not talking about the part, because the part is still visibly Arab. But you have places like Mali, where the first university was. You have Mali, you have Senegambia, them call it, where Gambia is separated, even though Senegal, Gambia is the same land as Senegal, but Gambia is English speaking, Senegal is French speaking. But then you have the in a Mali, Tuareg, please, if I calling it proper, I hope I calling it proper. Them people, they black till not even night. Black like them people, they walk in a light, you don't even see them. Don't hear them black. We have the opportunity to really see some people in Africa where, I mean, look at a country like the Cameroon. You have one part of the Cameroon is English, and you have one part of the Cameroon is French. And within that, English colonization in language and French colonization, you still have 200 other different languages that is spoken. So you're going to one village, and in that village there, so many languages spread in that village. So when you go and you say, one part, a pure French, everybody talk French in another part there. It's like you move from Kingston to St. Andrew. And in a Kingston, everybody talk English. And in a St. Andrew, everybody talk French. But yet, still within the French and the English now, you have places like Trenchtown, Jonestown. Everybody talk different languages in these little pockets of places. It's amazing. For go to them places, go really penetrate them things there and see how them things they work out itself. You know, you go It's like you're in a Kingston, everybody talk English. You're in a St. Andrew, everybody talk French. But when you go in a Trenchtown now, you have a man that talk another language. And when you go in a Jonestown, another man that talk a different language. And when you go in a Tivoli Garden, another man that talk a different language. And you go uptown, a man that talk a different language. You go cross road, a man that talk a different language. You go to Avondale. 200 are different language. That's a very tricky place. You come amongst them have some people them called pygmy. Not to mention them people they know for them language totally different. That man in other place they can't even understand the man will come from the other place down there. So them use that against we. And them come now with them religion and upset the apple cart. Where you had institutions of learning, where you had institutions of family structure, where you have institutions of science and technology. Them come now with them religion, and them come with them gun, and them Bible. Take away land and give away the Bible, and enforce that religion with them gun. Still I do it. Them still I do it. Black History Month is all about emphasizing these things and see that we don't repeat these things even though we never have to repeat it because it never gone from we. You know, see it. We are try put a little screw in the picture for sure you say, boy, right now, all we have to go on in our history, they still are going on so right now. It's not no different. We're no more wiser than our ancestors. Because our ancestors fight. Them see chain upon them foot, them fight. We know true, we know see no chain, we know want fight. We get complacent and passive. It is all about black history. It's all about how we view ourselves. And how we see ourselves in civilization and how we see ourselves creating, being a part of that creative force in civilization. Where we know what it is to be civilized. We know what it is to have institutions that govern people. We know what it is to have spirituality that define your humanness. And one part of it, we have lost our humanness because we have taken up other people's way of understanding self, not knowing say how them understand self, not necessarily how we understand self. That is why people is in different parts of the world, and you can't institutionalize something from one part of the world and say it must work so. An Eskimo have a total different understanding of the world than a man where I live right down in the Congo. An Eskimo worldview don't have to be like the man in a China. Him ideas and perceptions of how to live don't have to necessarily be like the one in a Jamaica. So no one should be whipped and gagged to see things because you have power over the other person. Because we know that power corrupt. And absolute power corrupt absolutely. That was said by a man named Lord Acton in England. And when we understand how power corrupt, and when you have absolute power, it corrupts you absolutely, then we will recognize how them use religion for corrupt way. And one would believe that religion would lead us to some form of spiritual salvation or spiritual guide. But because it was created by man, corrupt men, without even the understanding of them feminine self. Because when we are talking about religion now, Western religion does not include that feminine self that is necessary to complete the cycle of humanness. We have given up our feminine self, that energy, that compassion that is supposed to be human, into a patriarchal mindset. And this patriarchal mindset divert us from who we are as human beings and what is our purpose as human beings in relationship to the next person that the Rasta call I. So when the Rasta say I and I, him is not segregating himself from the next person, because there is no second person according to Rastafari philosophy. So, we're there with you, and we are saying, you could have deal, Black History Month, Mutabaruka deal with, last man standing, crying out in the wilderness, a Black History Month we are work with. As we say, we're going to the university, you know. Yes, remember I say, this is a university. It's not just a radio show. You understand? Not even a show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here again. I wish I had a more cheerful subject. A brother spoke to me before I came on and said we need to have some homework. I have been doing my homework all along. I have looked behind the slavery curtain to see what happened before slavery. There have been many slave periods in history, and slavery is something that has touched the life of every people on the face of the earth, no exception. The best known slavery period is that period that touched our life. The best documented slavery period is that period that touched our life. And yet that was not the longest period. Europeans enslaved Europeans for a much longer period under a system called feudalism that was just as brutal. There were biblical slavery. So slavery in itself was not new in the world as a weakness and a cruelness in man. There is a denial of man's God in making another man slave. And there are a people who solicit their God to endorse their enslavement of other people. All forms of present-day organized religion is endorser of some form of slavery and some form of oppression of other people. Therefore, all forms of organized religion is ungodly. I'm not talking about spirituality that has been with us all along and must stay with us even when shams go away. It is organized spirituality that lifts man higher than the dog. Our crisis today The crisis in Somalia, the crisis in Africa, the crisis in the Caribbean islands, the crisis in the United States, that we have lost from our historical memory the time when we were in charge of the state and when we ruled the state, that the methodology taken out of our mind and not the mind of a foreigner, a baker, and a fool. When independence came to Africa, when the concept of independence came to the Caribbean islands, when we had our charade called the Civil Rights Movement, nobody was fighting to be totally independent of that former slave master. In some way, we were all crawling to get back on the plantation. We were fighting to consume his hamburger. We were fighting for the right to make our oppressor rich. So we did not understand the nature of liberation. And if you do not understand the nature of liberation, mentally you are still a slave. Now the slavery that we still must grapple with started in the 15th and the 16th century. Slavery started in the world when man emerged in the world and developed a fear and a weakness of other people and felt that they had to enslave another people to feel safe. That was one kind of slavery, but slavery based solely on race, on color. That's the slavery hatched from the European mind in the 15th and the 16th century. For there were periods when Europeans enslaved Europeans, Jews enslaved Jews. Now my focal point is that for most of your existence on this earth, you lived in independent states fashioned by your own mind. And that this great event has been removed from your historical memory. I want you to travel with me just a little while when we go behind that slavery curtain and see what did you do when you were in charge of the state all by yourself. You didn't ask any foreigner to assist you in any way, and you ruled the state exceptionally well. In some places, you ruled so exceptionally well, you had no word for jail in your language because no one had ever gone to one. You create words to describe what happened. If no one ever gone to something called a jail, you don't need a word for one. If you never threw away children, you needed no word for orphanage. If the life between a man and a woman worked and functioned because of the support system coming from both sides of the family, you never heard of a thing called divorce. Well, no one ever got one. You got mixed up with someone else's thing. Now understand me. I have gone over cultural incubation. When you come out of a cultural womb, the chemistry of that womb shapes your personality. When someone puts you into another womb, shapes your personality. When someone puts you into another womb, it's like putting you into the stomach of someone who's not your mother. The chemistry of your personality is shaped another way. Therefore, you had no wife beaters in Africa. You had no teenage pregnancy in Africa. So your worst traits were picked up from your oppressor because you were living in a state that you did not fashion. And because the state that you fashioned was removed from your historical memory, when finally you developed semi-independence, because you had forgotten how you ruled the state, you became the imitators of the people who put you in that second incubator where the chemistry of your personality changed to suit the slave master's chemistry and not the original chemistry of your body. Now, let's deal with the interference which led to the confusion about your structure of the state. The first invaders of Africa from Western Asia. Now the Africans in North Africa and Northeast Africa became a little confused between their culture and the culture of the people of Western Asia. Some of them debased, some of them degenerates, some of them bringing in habits the Africans never knew. And this confusion in Africa's generosity and his traditional hospitality to the stranger began to impinge on his own methodology of rule. This would be overcome, and he would enjoy 1,000 years of peace before people called the Assyrians, now called Syrians, would come back. And they would be so terrible, they would make way for people called Persians, now called Iranians. And they would be so bad, mulattoizing Africa, until even the husbands who had imposed themselves on the Africans would cry out against their Iranian relatives. And they would open the door for the young Greek, Alexander, called the Great. It's the first European imposition. Now, Alexander's brief period influenced the monarchy, but did not influence the lower class of people. But he would open the door for a bunch of greedy Italian gangsters. They wasn't really Italians at that time in history. They were mixture. But we can't get into the Mediterranean mulattoes who pass for white. Or the Hispanic, I don't know what a Hispanic is. But all of these are white wannabes. That would be about 1/3 of the population of Europe, all mixed with us. If one drop of us makes you a whole, our powerful blood has given us at least 1/3 of Europe. Now, we didn't make the law now. If those who made the law want to change the law, they still have the right to do so. We made no racial law and didn't know anything in the world was called a race until some food imposed it on us. Now, what I'm trying to get to is that Rome established itself in North Africa, while the bulk of Africa was still free of foreign domination. The Romans eventually stopped killing Christians and became Christians so disgraced themselves in the mismanagement of the faith, they opened the door for Islam. The Africans, thinking that they would adopt Islam and get the Romans off of their back, were right. But Islam and the Arabs replaced the Romans on that back, and they're still there. Instead of getting a friend, you got another conqueror impinging upon the independent state. As Islam swept across North Africa, led into Spain by black general Gibraltar, great states were born in the Western Sudan. There were independent states below the Sahara, before Ghana. But Ghana emerged straddling the gold trade across the Sahara by collecting toll. And this independent state would suffer from the spread of Islam into Africa, especially into a kingdom called Susu, now called Mauritania. The Islamized blacks and the Arabs in this kingdom will ultimately destroy Ghana. But before this destruction, this independent state rose to great magnificence. In the 9th century, they could mount an army of 250,000 men, 40,000 archers. In the 9th century, by 1000, they had a king named Tennessee. This would not be so significant except Tennessee had a habit of inviting a few people in for dinner. He would announce in the morning without any warning. He'd like to have a few people in for dinner, maybe 10 or 20,000. And by the time they got there, the food was ready. The cows were killed. They put on the spigot, and the whole thing was turned over, so everything is done, sliced and put on plates. The significant thing is that the kitchen was as organized as the army. This opened the door for one of the most magnificent of their kings and the last of them before. The Islamic destruction of the country in 1076. After the reign of Tenkamini, known as the king who rode out twice a day, every day. He would ride out once a day and hold court among his people, and no one had to move from his presence until they were satisfied that justice had been done in his case, his or her case. A democratic monarchy, and all people had access to the king. He would ride out in the evening, dogs better dressed than the kings of Europe, silk and satin, gold aplenty, 4 men walking behind the horse, brocade mat, just in case the horse wanted to sleep, to make him throw down the mat. Several men carried a big clump of gold. If you want to stabilize the horse, put down the gold. Nobody's going to steal it. It's plenty of gold. When we had it, we showed it. And when we had it, we used it. No poverty. And this is one of the great countries below the Sahara that developed. And why do we have such good records? Is because many times Arabs visiting the country made good records, and some good records were made by local people. One of the best men is El Amari and others. There's many good histories of this great independent African country. The best simplified work is Adu Boyan's Topics in West African History. Basil Davison's work on West Africa is some interesting history, but Jacob Ajayi's work on West Africa before 1000, Father Bauer's work on school history of Ghana. There's plenty of good work on this kingdom. But after this kingdom in West Africa, we're dealing with inner West Africa called the Western Sudan as against coastal West Africa. After this country was overrun by the neighboring country, the Susus, another kingdom arose, Mali. Now the Susus invaded Mali and destroyed all the royal family except a crippled boy named Sundi Atta. The crippled boy was cured. This is significant because it tells you how much Africans knew about the orthopedic sciences at this juncture in history. He grew up tall and straight with no signs of ever being crippled and never seen a Western doctor. He was called the Lion Prince. He freed the country from the domination of Mali, the Susus. Brought all the territory that used to be Ghana into Mali. Literally the father of that country. The second great king, Sakuru, was a Muslim. Remember, Ghana was destroyed by Muslims. Mali was nominal Muslim, I mean the royal family was Muslim. We have not studied the black side of Islam, because the black side of Islam had nothing to do with Arab or Arabism. Now, this kingdom, Sakuru, decided he'd go to Mecca, and he decided he would come back. Now, the period that I'm dealing with now is about 1215 AD. He would come back to southern route, and he came back to an area that used to be called French Somaliland. He encountered a people called the Danak Hills. Some of the meanest people in all Africa. They ain't got no friends, they want no friends. Don't want no visitors. Don't come looking at me because I don't want to look at you. They drove de Gaulle out of it. De Gaulle came back, asked them to stay in the French Union. Said, what me stay in the French Union? I was never in it. Get the hell out of here. They're part Ethiopians, part Somalians. Whole lot of good-looking women, you better not look at one. Unless you want to run or go to a funeral. This should be talked about when we do culture history of Africa. We haven't done enough on the culture history of Africa. There's some Africans very clannish about their women, even among other Africans. Not only outsiders better not touch them, other Africans better not touch them. The Danakils are one of them. Don't worry, the Americans not going to go over there. They know where to go. They ain't crazy. But the point here is that Sakuru went into their country without their permission. Thought he would just venture down there, and he was killed. And they sent him home. Peculiar thing, which I cannot explain, they embalmed him in honey. And he was still lifelike when he got home. And all that African heat. Now, chemically, I cannot explain how sugar can preserve anybody in heat. But this, all historical records give me this information. Now, the next king of the country is the best known of all of the African kings of that period. He came to power in 1306. He was kind of the showboy of ancient, of medieval Africa, called Mansa Musa, a devout Muslim. He went on the trip to Mecca and Medina, 1324, that years preparing for it. He had brought all the territory, the neighboring territory, into his empire. As he prepared to go on this trip, special gold was assembled for the trip. 250 bondsmen marched in front of his entourage, staffs of pure gold. 250 camels, each with 250 pounds of gold. When he went through countries that had a little depression, when he left, they had prosperity. He dug swimming pools, luxury. He had 50 royal hairdressers, and he only carried his favorite wives. When he arrived in Egypt, he was so splendid, they said, "He is Africa, there is nothing else." He crossed over to the holy places, thought there wasn't enough water in the well of Zim-Zim, thought he might build another well. They told him it was at the well of Zim-Zim that the prophet saw got the vision, so you just can't build another well. Because I think the well went dry years ago, and I think they put in some little faucet water in the well. Now, when you go to the Nahar, you're supposed to drink from the well of Zim-Zim. Because a whole lot of Muslims don't know enough about their history to know that's supposed to do. He developed armed places, and on his way back, they decided to make him the Grand Caliph, a head of Islam in all Western Africa. But he was supposed to bow down and kiss the feet of the man giving him this great honor. He said, "This ill befits a great head of state. I will bow down to kiss your feet only if you bow down and kiss mine first." So nobody bowed down. On his way home, this is no ordinary king. So no ordinary homecoming present is good for him. His army had captured the neighboring kingdom of Sangay. They gave him a nation as a homecoming present. He went through this nation, saw with an architect, Ibn Asak. They took a sleepy mosque called Sinkori and developed it into one of the great universities of late medieval Africa. He took 2 princes hostage. At that time, you didn't declare war on people. You just take two royal princes. The king's going to behave. I got 2 of your sons over here. After a while, the son was given too much liberty, and they rode closer and closer to home, and they got the message out that Mali is weakening, the king is dead. Doing this, after the death of Mansa Musa, man came to power named Mansa Morgan. This would not be significant except that Ibn Battuta, a great Arab traveler, came to the land during that period. Didn't want to go into the black land. Had been in China and every place. Yet he was still right that no place had he traveled, he was safer than down in the land of the blacks. He's a devout Muslim and a male chauvinist, an Arab male chauvinist. So he resented the fact that this Muslim country, the female had freedom. One of the main reasons why the female had freedom in the marketplace is that inner West Africa was Islamized by Islamized blacks who knew what custom to leave alone. East Africa was Islamized by Arabs who destroyed the matrilineal and installed the patrilineal, line by the male descent. Go to Senegal right now. The women are still masters of the marketplace. You see them walking around, you see men with that little machine making suits. But at the end of the day, you want to know who's the boss. See that lady with that big skirt on, tied around her waist, enough money to float a bank. She's paying off her help. She ain't got no bodyguard, ain't nobody gonna bother her. She's the boss in the Muslim country. Because the matrilineal still prevails. Lineage through the female side. Lineage does not mean dominance. Because the American man, the European man is so afraid of women, he's always safeguarding himself against her. And we imitate him sometimes because we live among him. But we were very comfortable making several female gods. He was very uncomfortable. Now, the structure thing about this second great independent state in West Africa is that those 2 princes got home and spread the news of Mali's weakness after the death of Mansa Musa. After the death of Mansa Musa. And though they were twins, when Ali Cologne was proclaimed Soni Ali, liberator, he would set in motion this largest and the last of the great independent states in West Africa. Because this state would be a consolidation of Ghana and Mali, all consolidated in one state and still controlling the gold trade across the universe, across the Sahara. Now with a great university, St. Corey, and a university city, Dijon or Genie, with its great universities, not one university, but a city devoted almost solely to education. Arabs coming down into the Western Sudan could not get a job at Senkori because the great master scholars taught 10 subjects and had to teach them well. Now, Soni Ali the second, 1464, 1492. The slave trade had already started along the coast. These independent states in inner West Africa went on to their golden age in spite of it and in the midst of it. But the slave trade had not destroyed all the coastal states in West Africa, but some were disrupted by the slave trade. In East Africa, some of the great trading states remained, but the Arab slave trade had started 1,000 years before the European slave trade. What the brothers who favor Islam fail to understand is that the Arab was a traditional slave trader before Islam.
Yeah, this is the Cutting Edge on RFM. We're continuing the lecture here. John Henry Clark talking about Africa before slavery.
And in the midst of it. But the slave trade had not destroyed all the coastal states in West Africa, but some were disrupted by the slave trade. In East Africa, some of the great trading states remained, but the Arab slave trade had started 1,000 years before the European slave trade. What the brothers who favor Islam fail to understand is that the Arab was a traditional slave trader before Islam. The slave trading is a part of his custom, part of his way of life. And some custom he imposes on you as Islamic custom has nothing to do with Islam, has something to do with the Arab custom. Just like the European imposed certain customs on Christianity that had nothing to do with Christianity, but had something to do with the European desire to control and to conquer. You have to make a separation between what people impose on a religion and what the religion had as its original intent. Now this great state would reach Sangay. And the significance of Sangay is that it was larger than the territory of the United States. That it controlled the gold trade, the leather trade, it had a great university, and that the Emperor Soni Ali II lost his life coming home from a minor war. And this brought into being the second man of iron to control that country. Between Soni Ali and Ashley the Great, you had the two greatest African heads of state in the last 2,000 years. Muhammad Abubakar Ituri, Prime Minister to Soni Ali, had been able to calm down the emperor, who was not Muslim. The Muslim imams and preachers kept telling him, pay more attention to the religion. And he would, instead of saying the 5 prayers a day, he would announce the 5 prayers, and as though he was talking to them, and said, I'm busy today, no more praying, bye-bye. So finally they told him to go into the mosque and pray, because you represent the people. So he did go into the mosque, and so they were watching him. As he said, as he bowed and bowed up, he was giving orders to his lieutenant. He was running the state in between prayers. So they called him a barbarian. His mother was a Fulo, and he belonged to an African religion. He had no patience with Islam. So when he was drowned, the minister did not, the imam did not feel any sorrow. They said he was a pagan. Yet these same men wrote in the annals of the history of that time that fate decreed that his name be remembered forever. Now come to power 1493. His prime minister, Muhammad Abu Bakr Ituri, on his way to his inaugural the sister of the deposed king shouted out, say it is not he, say he has not deposed my brother. Then she shouted out a curse word, throne stealer, usurper, thief, ash-slayer. And he stopped and said, I will not let the wailings of this sick woman disturb me. Henceforth, this is the name of my dynasty. Call me throne stealer, usurper, thief, ash-slayer. He's known in history as Ash-slayer the Great. He carried that country to the apex of its greatness. He was blind the last 10 years of his reign, and he managed to disguise this until at last it was discovered, and he was deposed by a son. That son was deposed by a cousin. And he went, sent for his love child, son born from one of his love marriages. When he was over 80, he had 50 sons over 50 years old. I'm not talking about all of his sons now. I mean all the ones over 50. He married into all of the kingdoms and nearly always begot a son. He was restored briefly to the throne, and the love child succeeded him, but he couldn't carry it out. The important thing now is that this kingdom pulled itself together due to a threat from North Africa. The Moroccans and the North Africans, the Berbers, the Arabs, the Moors had lost Spain. And they returned to Africa. So had conquerors with no land to conquer. By 1591, they turned inward on Africa with European mercenaries. They invaded the nations of inner West Africa using military equipment from Europe, some from Queen Elizabeth. They destroyed that great kingdom and permitted the slave trade from coastal West Africa to spread inland. In the meantime, the Portuguese and the Arabs had formed a partnership in East Africa. The Africans, not knowing of this partnership, some would go to the Portuguese to get help from the Arabs. Some would go to the Arabs to get help against the Portuguese. The African was politically naive in his relationship. He was now losing the effectiveness of the great independent states in East Africa and along the East African coast. But along that same coast, the Portuguese had encountered a great kingdom, now Zimbabwe and part of Mozambique. They called the Kingdom of Manapatapa, now Zimbabwe. They've seen great ruins in this area of an independent state. Now, when you look at Egypt, and I'm not going to handle this very well because this is Dr. Ben's area, You can have some argument because this is at the front door of Africa and the side door of Asia. When you go further down into Africa and see ruins like Zimbabwe, when you go to Ethiopia and see the great religious complex at Lalibela, when you always look for some white person who came there, built these things and disappeared without finding them, you're failing to attribute to the African mind the ability to run a state. And this is the one thing we need to look back at right now. How did we run states before the European? We wasn't starving before the Europeans. Our people were healthier when the forest was the drugstore. Now let's look at how and why the slave trade came. Because you're too confused about this system. You think that it came only to us. The Africans' generosity, unfortunately, miscalculated the strangers coming into his country. After that invasion into Songhai, destroying the structure of that country, they exiled the great scholars of the university, the last of the great chancellor, Akli Baba. He'd written 47 books, each on a separate subject. He had never gone outside of inner West Africa. When he arrived in Morocco, he had lost most of his library. When the emperor asked him about the Western Sudan he encountered with, he said, we're your co-religionists, we're your kin. He was telling these North African corrupt Muslims, we're your co-religionists. We're Muslims the same as you. And they got killed. I would like to see before I die one single black scholar with enough nerve to really study Islam. Stay Muslim as long as you want to, but don't stay stupid. Read the invasion, this Islamic invasion of inner West Africa that destroyed these independent states and permitted the slave trade to spread inland. Read Felix Du Bois' Timbuktu the Mysterious. Read Eleanor Hoffman's work, Land of the Evening Star, Morocco and the Land of the Moors. Read the Horizon History of Africa. Read Adouboan's essay, The Coming of the Europeans. Then if you forgive the modesty, read the essay that follows his essay called Africa, Time of Trouble, dealing with the impact of the coming of the Europeans. Unfortunately, I wrote that one. There is no shortage of information on what happened in Africa before the coming of the Europeans. There's no shortage of information on independent states before the coming of the Europeans. Before the Berlin Conference, 1884, 1885, at the Berlin Conference, the Europeans had not penetrated all of inner Africa. So Africa, totally under European control, lasted a little more than 50 years. coastal Africa under European domination lasted maybe from the 15th right through the 19th century. But the hinterlands had a degree of sovereignty. Before the Dutch came to South Africa, 1552, South Africans were more or less free, but the Zulus and others had launched wars that lasted nearly 200 years to preserve their independence and to free themselves from that domination. What I'm trying to say in the final analysis is that if we study the methodology of state rule, if we study the justice system in independent African states before the European rule, we would have to prune some of the systems, but they're all usable. The spirit of those states are usable. If you study the justice system of the Junda, that system is more democratic than anything we've got. These are systems that I've gone and lived among. I didn't just sit in rooms all the time. I've gone to courts in Africa, read books in Africa, talked to judges, gone to customary courts. How did you do it before? Talked to old men under trees, studied the bush school, the old bush school in Africa. The African people have the mentality to rule themselves and to feed themselves. What then is this present crisis about? When Ghana became independent, the powers that wanted to control Africa decided that no stable state would exist in Africa. The leading culprit, the new imperial nation of the world replacing England, was the United States. The new schemer and planner. England and the colonial powers had fastened on Africa a network of states alien to the African temperament, alien to the African way of ruling a state. The African did not create the nation state. The nation state is alien to Africa. What Africans had was the territorial state. In the territorial state, as much as 16 states in one territory. Cross-fertilization. People with different religions existing side by side. Different marketing systems interlacing. Cross-fertilization in trade. Cross-fertilization in culture. Now you got to stop at the border. Whose border? Their border. There wasn't no border till this fool faker got there. And each one has to pass it on to Africa, a religion alien to the African religion. But the African has to go back and get some concepts created by his own mind. Get some methodology created by his own mind. There's not one state in all Africa, and there's not one independent black state any place in the world except possibly some in the Pacific. For the methodology of the government, the approach to the government is an African creation. I have found the states in the Pacific more African-oriented, surely than the states in the West Indies, because there's nothing that resembles an independent state in the West Indies. They're all imitation colonial states. All imitation colonial states in Africa. Our mission is to restore to ourselves the concept of state management, state controlled by ourselves, a container for the soul of our children and the hopes and desires of our children. We have to throw off this dependency on other people to educate our children. No one is going to educate you in the methodology you need that you can use to take that power away from them. Powerful people never educate powerless people. They train them. So if we're going to get back and understand and extract from what we did as an independent people before slavery, before interference, we have to question everything. We may not have to discard any religion, but we have to discard every religious concept that did not originate in our own mind. We have to change it to suit our needs. And we will not be stupid enough to say, this is an atheist nation like the Russians. It is spirituality that lifts man higher than the dog. And you can have spirituality under any religion, and you can have it without any religion. Religion is an artificial formation brought into being by foreigners, fakers, and fools. All religion, all organized religions have been handmaidens for conquerors. Whatever touches your life must be an instrument of your liberation and the maintenance of your liberation, or you must throw it into the ash can of history. Take all the excess baggage out of your life and throw it aside. One of the main reasons the Japanese could rise from conquest, and remember 200 years ago they didn't even have a good wheelbarrow. Look at them now. They refused to let that conqueror take away from them their self-confidence and their idea of God as they conceived him to be. No people will ever be free if they worship a God assigned to them by another people. Look at them now. They refuse to let that conqueror take away from them their self-confidence and their idea of God as they conceived him to be. No people will ever be free if they worship a God assigned to them by another people. God is not less God if you see him your way, and he is not less if you see him in your own image. Seeing the deity in your image is a responsibility, and you will never have full respect for the black father in your home if there's a white father hanging in your church. Thank you.
This is the cutting edge. No people will ever be free if they worship a God that is assigned to them by other people, namely the oppressor. This is the cutting edge. Black History Month. This is the last Wednesday in Black History Month, and we celebrate Black History Month every year. For the past 20 odd years we dip on this program here. We not left it out. Last voice standing, crying out in the wilderness. We need Black History Month. We need it. We don't want it. We need it. So, that is class 1. We want to carry it to the next lecture here. A man that you have become familiar with because of this program and because IRFM brought him to Jamaica. We want to present Reverend Ray HAGINS talking about racism in the guise of religion. Reverend Ray HAGINS.
Kind of just pull that microphone over so that Minister Stewart's reading can get on the tape. Okay, because today's message is entitled Racism in the Guise of Religion. Racism in the guise of religion. And I want you to see today how religion is the major vehicle for all of the wars that's fought. Racism in the guise of religion. Those who are believers in religion, everybody say religion. It's a very powerful thing, y'all. I'm telling you, man. Those who are believers in religion see their religion as a force for good in the world. Most people who are religious honestly think that their religion is a good thing. They really do. And the reason why they think their religion is a good thing is because their intent is good. Yet religion is the #1 vehicle that is readily used as a force for hate. It's used as a force for war. It's used as a force for violence. And guess what? Even though it's religion, it's used as a force for evil. Now, it's not a requirement that individuals intentionally and actively participate in evil for this to happen, for their religion to be a vehicle of evil. I want to be sure you caught that. Most people who are religious or believe in a religion, they don't intentionally or actively involve themselves in evil activity. Yet it is their belief in and support of their religion that makes it successful in its evil activity. And we're making sense to you. For example, look at what's going on between Islam and Christendom. For centuries, Christendom has been on the attack against Islam. I'm sure many of you have heard about something called what do you call it, when they were attacking the wars that went on? The Crusades, thank you. The Crusades, where Christians slaughtered hundreds upon thousands of Muslims in the name of Jesus. They carried their shields with the crosses on it. Even their swords were made in the shape of a cross, all in the name of Christendom. Now, when believers in religion make excuses for or simply accept the horrible actions of other believers like this, they only undermine any possible opportunity for respect for that religion. One of the reasons why people are developing such a negative attitude against Christianity per se is not because Christians are evil, but because people who profess to be Christians, who are world leaders, are evil. Did y'all grab how I just said that? Most Christians are good people at heart. Most Muslims are good people at heart. Most Hindus are good people at heart. Most so-called Jews are good people at heart. But the leaders, the politicians up at the top, are the ones who have the corrupt hearts. But because they are such major contributors to their churches financially, they are respected by the status quo. Racism in the guise of religion is evident in its appeal to, and follow how I'm saying this, in its appeal to a two-category system. What do you mean, Brother Ray, by two-category system? What I mean by that is you have a group of people who are what we call the in folk. I-N, the in crowd. And then you have a category of people called the out crowd. What's deep about it is the in crowd always holds itself above or superior to the out crowd. The in crowd are the ones who makes the laws. The in crowd are the bankers. The in crowd are the ecclesiastical, political, religious leaders. The in crowd are the people with money, own major corporations. Those are the in crowd. The out crowd are usually those of us who are not as economically powerful as others are. The out crowd are usually those people who have a sincere heart and just want to see the right thing done, but they're not in a position to pull it off. The out crowd are usually just the good family people who are at the bottom of the totem pole. This two-category system is seen through what is called the suffering syndrome. The out crowd are the ones who are suffering because of a lack of opportunity. The out crowd was taught by the in crowd. Check this out. The out crowd was taught by the in crowd that if you suffer, you will reign with God. But the in crowd is the one that's bringing the suffering on the out crowd. I'm going to make it sense, y'all. In the Bible, and like I said, y'all, what I'm saying now is really just an introduction to what religious literature has done to us. And that's why those who are in the out crowd literally accept being in the out crowd, because their religious literature tells them that they are the out crowd, not realizing that God didn't write the religious literature. Even though you think it's the Word of God, God didn't write it. Did y'all get that? Even though you've been told it's the Word of God, God didn't say it. Oh, shucks. You see, in the Bible, God, the God of the Bible, not the God of our ancestors, Let me be clear on that. All right? The God of our ancient African ancestors is not the God that we grew up learning about. Not in the white man's society. No, you didn't. Okay? In fact, most of us are just now coming into the awareness of the God of our ancestors. Because the God that we were taught to pray to as children is not the God of our ancestors. It is the imaginary character that was created by the in crowd to control your life. In the Bible, the God of the Bible takes sides with the in crowd. In the Bible, the God of the Bible sides with a group of people called Israelites. What's really deep about it is this God actually sides with them in a murderous, genocidal campaign based in racism to grab or steal the land of the outcry from the Jebusites, the Canaanites, the Philistines, the Amalekites, in the same way that the United States government is still doing the same thing today. Under the authority of the same God, going into other countries and taking their land. In religion, the God of a particular ethnic group assists that group in overcoming its enemies. Every religion has the same claim, but not like Christianity does. And it brings prosperity. The God of the in-group brings prosperity to the in-group at the expense of the out-group. Now, don't take my word for it. Let's kind of do some biblical work here. Now, let's see how much time we got, because I got a lot of scriptures that are to be read here. Okay. Let's look at Deuteronomy. The 7th chapter, verses 1 through 8. Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter, verse 1 through 8. For those who don't know, Deuteronomy is the 5th book of the Bible. Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter, verses 1 through 8. Read it for me. Tell me what it says.
When the Lord thy God
Yes?
will bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it.
Now check this out now. This is supposedly God speaking to the Israelites. And it says, when God brings you into the land to possess it, what are you going to do?
And have cast out many nations before thee.
Now, God is going to get rid of the people that's already there. Y'all got this? Think of Columbus and the Native Americans, for example. Okay? I mean, this is like God saying to Columbus, when I take you to the shores of America and cast out the inhabitants that are already there before you. Go ahead.
The Hittites.
Now, the names of the people that she's about to read are all descendants of the biblical black dude.
Right.
Who is the biblical black dude? Ham, right? Okay? Now, the names that she's reading now are the descendants of Ham. Not Shem or Japheth, but Ham. Right? What are these names again? Go ahead.
The
Hittites. Girgashites.
The
Amorites.
Canaanites.
Canaanites. Perizzites. Hivites. Jebusites. All of these are black nations. Allegorically speaking, they're still black nations. You got me? Go ahead, read.
7 nations greater and mightier than thou.
Now that's some deep stuff. The Bible is actually saying these black folk are greater than y'all are. It's actually saying that. These black folk are better than y'all are. They're greater than y'all are. They're more intelligent than y'all are. Okay? You know, whatever they got it. But yet, I'm going to drive them out so that y'all, Israelites, can have their land. Go ahead.
And when the Lord thy
Told you, racism in the guise of religion. The Bible says that these Israelites, God is going to send them in to kill them. What else?
Thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them.
Sound like Iraq, don't it? Sound like exactly what this country is doing in Iraq right now. Smite them, destroy them. What else?
Thou shalt make no covenant with them.
Don't make no covenant with them.
Nor show mercy unto them.
Don't even show them any mercy. What kind of God is this? Go ahead.
Neither shalt thou make marriages with them.
Don't marry them either. Well, that's some deep stuff. That's some deep stuff. All of a sudden now, because the truth is coming to bear, the white man now feels it's okay to intermarry. That's another lecture. Go ahead. All right.
Thou shalt not give unto his.
Don't let them marry your daughters.
Nor his daughters shalt thou take unto thy.
Don't let them marry your sons. Go ahead.
For they will turn away thy son from following me.
Ain't that something? These black folk will turn y'all white folk away from following God. Go ahead.
For they will turn away thy son from following me.
Yes.
They may serve other gods.
Okay. What verse is that? Keep going.
So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and
Yes.
destroy thee suddenly.
God's going to be angry with you if you do this and destroy you. Now check it out. God ain't going to be angry with you for going in there and killing these folk that ain't done nothing to you. Okay, but God is going to be angry with you if you let your son marry that black woman over there. God's going to be angry with you if you let that black man over there marry your white daughter. Okay, God's going to destroy you if you do that. But God ain't going to destroy you if you go in there and murder these people. Y'all getting this? Go ahead, sister.
But thus shall you deal with them.
This is how I want you to deal with them.
You shall destroy their altars,
Tear down their altars.
break down their images.
In other words, just destroy their entire culture altogether. Right? Okay? All right, now, cool. Let's go to Genesis, the 12th chapter now. Because, see, you just established a principle here. Okay? You saw in the biblical text where God authorizes genocide to a select group of people. Wow, ain't that deep? Man, let's check how deep this goes. Okay, Genesis 12, 1 through 3. What does it say?
Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country,
Yes?
and from thy kindred,
All right.
and from thy father's house,
Okay.
unto a land that I will show thee.
Now, for the sake of those of you who don't know this whole big picture, let me do something right quick. Minister Stewart, keep your finger there. All right, let's run over right quick to Galatians, the 4th chapter. All right, because I want everybody to understand that the same Bible tells you Abraham never existed. Same book tells you Abraham never existed. Now she's getting ready to go back and read all this stuff that God said to Abraham. Okay, I said that somebody sat right up on the edge of their seat, like, what you mean, Abraham? That's why I want y'all to do this. Look in your Bible. Galatians, the 4th chapter, starting at the 21st verse. What does it say?
It says, Tell me, you that desire to be under the law.
Now listen to this. Those of you who desire to be under the law, those of you who desire to be controlled in your thinking, what is it going to say?
Do you not hear the law?
All right, go ahead.
For it is written.
22nd verse says it is written. It doesn't mean it actually happened. It's just saying it is written. Somebody wrote this, right? Go ahead.
That Abraham had two sons.
Abraham had 2 sons, and we're getting ready to read about this so that you'll understand this. Go ahead.
The one by a bondmaid.
The one by bondmaid, which we're going to read about shortly.
The other by a free woman.
The other by a free woman, Sarah, which we're going to read about shortly. Go ahead.
But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh.
And it was in a sinful nature. Go ahead.
But he of the free woman was by promise.
But he of the free woman, Sarah's son, is the one that I promised, that God supposedly promised to Abraham. Cool. Now, what does the next phrase say? For those who hearing this for the first time, those who watching this for the first time, hearing it, what does it say? The 24th verse. What does those next few words say?
Which
things are an allegory. Y'all got this? So in other words, we're hearing, according to the Bible, that the whole story about Abram, which of course the first name was Abram, as we're going to read, is all an allegory. It never historically happened. existed. And of course, when I say this, I got to kind of go down the line a little bit. Because if Abraham didn't exist, then Isaac didn't exist. If Isaac didn't exist, then Jacob didn't exist. If Jacob didn't exist, then the 12 tribes of Judah didn't exist. If the 12 tribes of Judah didn't exist, then the line of Judah didn't exist, which we call Jesus. Y'all understand me? If you cut the root, you have no tree. Now that we got that clear, now let's go back and see what the European historiographers have done to control the world and put their racism in religion. That controls how we treat each other today. And why right now fighting is going on in the Middle East. We're getting ready to read why it is. Yes. All right, back to Deuteronomy. Genesis, the 12th chapter. Check it out now.
First verse says again, now the Lord said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house into a land that I will show thee.
Now this is some deep stuff. You just heard her say it's an allegory. Right? Now you can read all these verses that people honestly think is history. It is. It's his story. That's exactly what it is. It's his story. Okay? Which they wrote for the sake of world domination and control. And you got to remember that. Go ahead.
And I will make of thee a great nation.
Genesis 12 and 1 and 2 says that God said to Abram, who never existed, I'm going to make a great nation out of you, Abram. Go ahead.
And I will bless thee.
And I will bless thee.
And make thy name great.
And I'm going to make your name great.
And thou shalt be a blessing.
And thou shalt be a blessing.
And I will bless them that bless thee.
Check this out now. Check this out. God says to Abram, who never existed, I will bless them that bless thee. Go ahead. And I'm going to curse them that curse thee.
And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed.
And in you, Abraham, shall all the families of the earth be blessed. This is a mess. You know why this is a mess? Because people literally govern their lives based on what she just read. And yet she also read out of the same Bible that Abraham is an allegory. Let's go to the 13th chapter now, verses 14 through 17. Got to move very quickly because I got all these verses. I just want you, listen, y'all write these down, get the tapes, share them with people, because these are the facts that will set our people free from this lie. Okay? See, I can stand up here and tell you a whole lot of stuff, but we got people who are bound to this book right here. Okay, that they call the Bible. And since they're bound to the Bible, we need to go into the Bible so they can see the mess in the Bible and free themselves from it. Now, if you want to stay blind, that's up to you. If you want to stay ignorant, that's up to you. You got the right to remain ignorant. Okay? But I don't have the right to leave you ignorant. After I tell it to you, my job is done. You don't want to hear it? So be it. To hell with you. But that's exactly where it's going to end up. Go ahead. Check this out now. Now we're in the 13th chapter of Genesis, 14th verse. And the Lord said unto Abram, go ahead.
After that Lot was separated from him.
Yes.
Lift up now thine eye.
Abram, I want you to lift up your head. Go ahead.
And look from the place where thou art north.
From the point that you're standing right now, I want you to look to the north, to the south, to the east, and to the west. And as far as your eyes can see, Abraham, what?
For all the land which thou seest.
Yes.
To thee will I give it.
I'm going to give you the land that you can see, as far as you can see. Go ahead.
And to thy seed forever.
Now check this out. And to thy seed forever. Go ahead.
And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth.
I will make your seed, Abraham, as the dust of the earth. Now how can you number the dust of the earth? Go ahead.
So that if a man can number the
So now what we're reading here is that Abraham's offspring is supposed to be so blessed by God and so innumerable, right, that they are the greatest people on the planet. Go ahead.
Arise, walk through the land and the length of it.
Walk through the land. Wherever you walk. He goes on to say, everywhere you put your foot, every place you step, I'm going to give it to you and to your seed, Abraham. Okay? Now, let's deal with this. Go to the 15th chapter, verses 1 through 5. Now, so far, we're reading that God promised Abraham all of this. And not just to him, but to his seed, meaning his offspring. Y'all following me? Okay. Now, according to what people who are wrapped up in religion say, God promised this to Abraham. So therefore, since God promised it, we have a right to it. But he didn't exist. Go ahead.
After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision.
God speaking to him in a dream now. Go ahead.
Saying, fear not, Abram.
Don't be afraid, Abram.
I am thy shield.
Yes.
Thy exceeding great reward.
I'm your protection and your reward. Go ahead.
And
Abram said,
Lord God, what wilt thou give me?
God, what are you going to give me?
Seeing I have no child.
Seeing that I don't have no children.
REFM.
Yeah, this is the Cutting Edge on RFM. We're there with you. As we say, we are close out the Black History Month celebration. But you know, say, our Black History Month, you know, anytime we feel to do it, we just do it. You know, that's how it goes. We don't have no specific thing. But this February, as designated by Carter Goodson, we follow that. We don't have no qualms. We say, we are follow in the footsteps of this historical thing that was started in America. Because we, European, the strangest thing about this thing, you know, is that anytime white people have something, and you say you're not celebrated, people always say, so what you have to replace it? Now, I don't see why a man should start a thing named Valentine's Day. And because it gets so prominent in our psyche, and I say, come to a fullness now, say, I not celebrate it, I must replace it with something will resemble Valentine's Day. I don't see that. I don't see that. We have to go into the soul, our historical and cultural reference point, and find out things that best suit we. We don't have to try mimic what the Europeans did do and say, well, a Christmas now, so where we have for Easter, where we have for Christmas, where we have to celebrate this and this and that. No, Rasta, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. It will fall right in the trap where we are trying to come out. So you have a thing named Valentine's Day, Saint Valentine, and we say we now celebrate Valentine's Day. A man asks, you know, so where you replace it with then? Because you must have something to replace it with. You know, I must have something. It show how deep the brainwashing is. When you try to replace something where your slave master give you with something else. It's like a man that say, him now say Jesus Christ, him now say Jesus Christ. Yet still, the thinking behind this Jesus Christ is the same thinking like Jesus Christ. All him do is change the name or how him call the name and say Jesus Christ. It's the same thing. What is the purpose of changing the name when the concept is that which is helping you to fall down in the quagmire of illusion? So whether it's Jesus Christ or Jesus Christ, if the concept is the same, it don't matter what you call it. If you have a white Jesus and you change it to a black Jesus, and the black Jesus have the same attributes like the white Jesus, it don't make no difference. The idea is not that Jesus is black or white. The idea is the concept that surround the idea. So this God concept we have is the illusion that is brought to us by European invaders, by Arab invaders, where we refuse our indigenous things for these invaders' things. And then we look down upon our things and elevate their thing because we can't see through our own spectacle. As Marcus Garvey would say, you have to see God through your own spectacle. If you can't see God through your own spectacle, we're in a serious state. We're in a serious state. And we do have to mimic the next man thing. We do have to mimic it. My concept is that when I say Haile Selassie, I do have to call him Jesus Christ Messiah. I do have to call him the return Messiah. I don't have to go associate Haile Selassie with Jesus or Jesus Christ and all these things. My ancestral legacy show me, say, within the concept of God, man create God and God reciprocate and create man. So you become a universal oneness with your creator. If you should see your creator not inside or in the realms of your oppressor, but how you look through your spectacle. So I don't have to justify or validate Haile Selassie through what the slave master give I as Christianity. Because no matter where man want to say to you, no matter where man want to say, Christianity is a bastardization of African philosophy started in Kemet, Ethiopia. The ideas surrounding Christianity have nothing to do with Christianity itself, per se. In other words, the Son of God represents the sun in the sky. It don't have nothing to do with a man who did born, who is the son of some imaginary God. Because the sun is what man wake up and see as the source of our life, the source of our energy. So that is where him give reverence to. Some guy come round, create a thing, and put it in a man and said, this is the sun, the light of the world. Him dead and him rise again, and then him shall come again to judge the living and the dead. And then him have you now in a some fearful thinking, fearful attitude and behavior that has nothing to do with your African self. Your African self did not create that individual. Just like how you have black people today creating certain fashion designs and creating certain food and creating certain habits that is not them. But we accept it. Here we say black people do this and black people do that. We accept all of these things as a black invention or a black understanding. But it has nothing to do with self identity of our African self, because a lot of the things that we create is created because we are in an environment that does not allow us to live out our African self. Because if you start to live out your African self, it's either you are penalized for it, or your ears say you are demon. If you start to live out your African self, you say you're a demon or you are penalized for it. So a whole heap away is scared of our African self. Anytime we see our African self come out away, we have to draw back. Because we're afraid it is labeled outrageous and outlandish and vulgar, and all the things them bad that you can think of, just like how them think about black. Just like how them think about black sheep in the family, blacklisted, blackmail, black market. And that is where them have we in a. Them have we in a religion that them create. And we keep a try tell ourselves say this thing come from Africa. It's whole heap of things come from Africa that is not African. Whole heap of things. Oppressors, invaders, sit down in Africa and create like Alexander. We hear about Alexander the Greek. We hear about Pythagoras and all these guys. Alexander living in these areas, Persia, what them call Mesopotamia, what them call Egypt. These European invaders go down in those places, use the indigenous cultural expression, create something that is of their understanding and their likeness, and send it back to we. So instead that we go to the root, we start at which part the invaders allow us to start at, and then now internalize it and say it's our own. When a man say Christianity start in Egypt, of course it started because that's what the invaders them did there. And that's what the invaders them did there. You hear in the Bible them say Philip baptized. Christianity is not Ethiopian. Our people that talk like say Christianity is Ethiopian. If Philip, according to the book where I read, I don't know what the next man will read the next book. Them say Philip baptized the Ethiopian eunuch. And from that time, when Philip baptized the Ethiopian eunuch, him go back to Ethiopia and become a Christian. Who was Philip? From whence this guy come from? What was his education? What was his knowledge? Like we hear about Paul. Them say Paul was a Jew, but yet still, Paul was a Roman citizen who used to persecute Christians according to them. So not because a man now is a Jew, we would, just like a man, a whole heap of black people wouldn't really want to call them all African. Them is like rose bread fruit. I mean, as some serious Boston slave will call them. You have black people who create European intentions. Their intention is very European. And when them bring that to we go along with it, even though it was created by these Africans. But it's the African with a European mind. The African with a European mind. It's like how Irish potato is Irish when it's in the ground. When it fried, turn French fry. So you have Irish potato and the same potato become French fries. Which has nothing to do with France. Nothing. French fries has nothing to do with France. Nothing. But we internalize it. Because some guy come and say, this name Irish potato, when it fried, name French fried, and name Irish potato again, you know. You never hear a man refer to French fries as Irish fries, you know. It name French fries, which have nothing to do with France. So a man look on it now and say, okay, this now is that. And I come from Jamaica, or I come from which part ever me come from, and me will create that thing named French fries. It don't mean say French fries originate, or maybe even a Frenchman could have called it French fry too, you know. A man in Ireland could have called it Irish potato. I say him say Irish potato, which it don't have nothing to do with Ireland really. It don't have nothing to do with France. But I as an African could be sitting in France, creating this fry thing, and because I am in France, I call it French fries. I as a man where maybe I come from China, maybe, and I am sitting in China, in Ireland, and I'm doing this thing, and I say, but wait, what kind of potato is this? I never see this. Or all the time I plant potato, I never see this. You know, so to me in Ireland, we call it Irish potato. But I am a Chinese sitting in Ireland, calling the thing and creating a thing round it now, calling it French fries, which had nothing to do with nothing. Nothing to do with where I'm come from. But over a period of time, it become that something. Why I'm saying this is to say this, that we adapt things and we don't recognize the origin and how it was created and how it was designed. And sometimes at the expense of our culture, at the expense of our people, at the expense of African people, where things are designed in certain geographical areas, which has nothing to do with the geographical area. It's just an exploitation of the geographical area. And a lot of philosophical thinking, it's just an exploitation of the geographical area. And a lot of philosophical thinking created in Africa has nothing to do with Africa, because it's the invader that is creating it in Africa. Just like how them create apartheid. Invaders go to Africa and create apartheid in Africa. It don't mean say apartheid is African. The Boers, the Dutch, all of these guys go into Africa and create a philosophy named apartheid. It's not Africans create apartheid. It's Europeans go to Africa, create apartheid. And it become a philosophy in South Africa. But we know that indigenously, apartheid is not African. And there's a lot of things that was created in those parts of the world by the invader. Where we hold on pan. And I go on like say, because it come from that part of the world, we supposed to hold on pan it. Where we have intelligence now, we have information that can decipher and figure out exactly what is what and what is not. One, them can't take away from with that human being start in Africa. Them can't take away that from way. The first appearance of any human being was in Africa. So no matter how the thing go round and come back round as to now, it have to land right in Africa. We have to appreciate that. How did African people, the first people, the original people who gave the world all the things them, what we call science, what we call culture, what we call, spirituality, religion, how did we come now and grapple with ourselves? Because we are recognizing the other man things over our things. Because if we don't understand the other man things, then our things are going to look stupid, because it's him is the power. It's him is the powerful people, who educate you, the powerless. So the powerless is always trying to be powerful, but the powerful will not give up the power. Who is creating these ideas and concepts around we? That when we see our things and dry it out, we still refuse to accept it, because it not look like for them things. What is the logics that they are using to define their world and create their world, and we using freedom logics now to define and create our world? When our world created by their definition is causing the demise of African people, it is how we look at them and start to behave and react to them that is causing our demise. Because we still don't understand that it's we are the Atlas according to how Atlas go. holding the world on our shoulder. It's we, but we refuse to accept we. We don't want to see ourselves. No confidence in ourselves. There must be some form of confidence in self. Logics cannot be through just one eye. The earth don't make that way. They have people who they're near the equator, who they're far from the equator. You have people who are in the tropics, you have people who are in the cold. You have people who are, say, 6 months appear night and 6 months appear day. You have people who have flat nose, you have people who have straight nose. You have people who have dark color, you have people who have lighter color, you have people who have blue color, you have yellow color, all sorts of color. So everything can go, boom, this is what me say, and this is how me do it, and so it must go. No Sankey no sing so. No Sankey couldn't sing so. Because if it did sing so, then all the way would have to give credence to the white man. Because him control all of the Sankey. There must be some respect for indigenous cultural expressions. Because it's indigenous cultural expressions that give way to the formal way of understanding things. And if we have this way of understanding things and don't understand that it coming from an indigenous perspective, then we're going to lose out on it. Just like how we don't understand Kemetic traditions. We don't understand about the pharaohs. We don't understand about the worshiping and the Mahat, and we don't understand the coming forth by day, and we don't understand all of these things. So we give it over to evil. So when we say all the Ankh, we don't understand what is the Ankh. So because we're in a Christian mind, we say the Ankh is a devil symbol. We don't understand the Eye of Horus. So when we say the Eye of Horus, we say that devil symbol. And everything that is not Christian is devil symbol. Not understanding, say, these symbols that Christians create is not a creation of their own being, but it came from somewhere else, so that them give a different identification and interpretation for that thing. So when we hear about the Son of God, we don't understand how it connect with Egyptian mythology, because they make it become now not a mythology, but then bring it into being and use the same philosophy from the Egyptian mythology to create a being or to create some philosophy that has nothing to do with reality. Has nothing to do with reality. So we now see the Ankh, and we say it's a devil symbol. From everybody wear devil symbol. It's an Ankh. Because him taking the branch, him not take the root. So why we don't go back to the root? Why we have to deal with the branch continuously? Because understanding the root will make you more be aware of what the branch is all about. And if you don't understand that there is a root in the tree, you're going to want to chop down the tree. And you know, you chop down the tree and the root still there to grow back. You can't get rid of the root. Not that easily, really. And what we are trying to now is allow them to dig out the root and give it the branch. And we hold on for the branch like that is the reality. That is the illusion. They must sell with illusion. So black history is all about coming to grips, coming to understand fully what you and your ancestors did to make life more meaningful and have more purpose in the realms of culture, spirituality, science and technology, and all the metaphysics that you can speak of. It come out of our blackness, our Africanness. And we have to find that. We have to find that. We have to find that outside of all the things them that these guys give way and make us feel it's reality. There's a president, the president of Ghana, I forgot what his name. Him say, we can be modern but not Western. I stand up and hear him say that. Not somebody tell me. Him say, we can be modern but not Western. Because people feel say, modernization is Westernization. That is not true. Because when there was no Europe, 50,000 years ago, those people was modern in them understanding of things. When the Egyptians them was walking, creating the pyramid, that was a modern time. Modern times is as modern be. So when we look upon it, the whole consciousness of the thing now, we are saying we're modern. But anytime you talk about modern in this time now, people think say, you get westernized because you get modern. Not knowing say, modernization is thus a process and a development of the human condition. Can man move, man evolve. And the more man evolve into a next consciousness and a next state, even getting more modern. Modern don't mean westernization. Westernization is a different thing. We can't mix up modernization with westernization. You have to understand that. Because right now, the way we mix up modernization with westernization, them same one, tell we say, couple years from now, cancer will increase amongst developing countries. And them I tell you that, you know. So them I say we must cut down upon our alcohol and our cigarette because cigarette is one of the major causes of cancer. Imagine that them make the cigarette, you know. And them make the cigarette, you know, we never used to have cancer when we have smoke ganja in Africa, you know. And them make the cigarette and put all the different poisons in the cigarette. And sell you the cigarette and you are stupid enough to get that cigarette. And the cancer stick create havoc amongst so-called third world countries, where most of the third world countries is dark-skinned people. Yet still, the guys them come tell you now, say, watch out now. You see, years down the line, is UNO going to have the most cancer, that disease, lung cancer, alcohol cancer. UNO going to have it. And guess what? The more them I tell you, say, UNO going to have it, and the more them are going to sell it, and the more them are going to make you buy it, and then tell you, say, drink responsibly. It's a madness. It's a madness. If you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything. Serious message. But we use this month as a special time to really energize ourselves and remember what our ancestors stood for. Yeah, to the very last drop, Sister Carol, man. May I tell you, what a sweet tune. I want to tell you, so we're going to play a Miss Mira Shop, Wireless Station Road, Kingston Wood District, Stony Hill. Outdoor function, what we call a belated Black History Month celebration. So, Mutabaruka. You know, the next March, well, next month, the end of March, we're going to do a Little London. Yes, we are telling you from now, you know. We are telling Westmoreland people them from now. All kind of music, trust me. We are one the Rastaman them from now, you know, say, come for dance, you know, no come for stand up and... Yeah, blessed.
Yeah, give thanks. Dano, you know how long me I try to get there. Yeah, man. I tell us, yes, Mota.
Blessed man. me say give thanks, say stay with me till right, you know. Believe you me, you know, so you could have drop asleep, but you stay with me. Give thanks to all the people.